Shalom, everybody. My name is Margalit. People who know me sometimes call me Maggie. That's also fine. I live in Israel. I'm Jewish. I'm an Israeli and I'm Jewish. I'm a Jewish mom. My family comes from Yemen, and I'm very happy to start this new series of Bible studies for Goyim. First of all, before we begin, let me address the name Goyim. Goyim is the name that we use when we refer to non-Jews, Gentiles, other nations. When I looked it up in Google, there was a reference that sometimes it is used disparagingly, which means in a disrespectful manner. When people say goy or goyim, they mean it disrespectfully. I would like to make it very clear that this is not the case. This is a simple terminology that distinguishes between Jews and non-Jews. And in order to prove my point, I would like to quote from Psalms 105, verse 13. There's a verse there in Hebrew. It says, "Vayithalchu migoy el goy, mi mamlacha el am acher," and it is translated, when they went from one nation to another, from one kingdom to another people. That means the word goy means nations, other nations. Right. Now that we have this clear, let's start with the first chapter of the book of Genesis, Genesis number 1. And I'm going to start with the first verse. Genesis is a wonderful book. We actually finished reading the book of Genesis, the last parasha. Parasha means chapter. This last Shabbat, we read the last parasha that touched on the death of Jacob. And the following book is going to address the children of Israel leaving the land of Canaan and moving to Egypt as a family, right? However, the first chapter, the whole book of Genesis is just a wonderful book with the story of the creation of the world, and the story of Abraham, the first person that realized monotheism by himself, realized that everything is coming from one source, that there's a unity in the universe, that God is one, and so on. And of course, the story of his descendants, Isaac, and then Jacob, and then the children of Jacob that became the 12 tribes, and so on and so forth. We will touch on that later on when we reach the other chapters. I would like to first address the first verse in the book of Genesis. I'm going to read it both in Hebrew and in English. The first, I think maybe the most famous verse in the Bible, even people who do not know any verse from the Bible, for sure they know this one. And I'm first going to read it in Hebrew and then in English. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So there are different translations. This one says, in the beginning of God's creating the heavens and the earth. Never mind. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And now I would like to address a very interesting subject. Why start with that? So there were many interpreters of the Bible that try to explain why start with that. It might seem natural for us to go like, but of course you start with the beginning. However, the Torah is the book of the law, and the most important thing that we need to extract from the Torah is how are we supposed to live our lives? What does God want from us? What does the Creator want from its creation? So people suggested it should have been more understandable or more expected to start with the first law, which is, this is just in brackets, which is to celebrate the first holiday, like to appoint a certain day in time, which is the month of months and the beginning of the year, right? Because that implies then the counting of the Hebrew calendar and establishing the different holidays, the Shabbats, and so on and so forth. So there is a very famous interpreter of the Bible. His name is Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki. In abbreviation, Rashi. Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki. He was born and operated in the 11th century in France, a very long time ago. And he was able to conclude an enormous task, which is to interpret the entire Bible and the entire Talmud. Talmud is, I will dedicate a different chapter to explaining what the Talmud is. A Talmud is an even deeper understanding of the Jewish law, the halakha, or the way we should conduct our lives according to God's will. So he was able to finish all of that in his lifetime. And like I said, almost 1,000 years ago. He lived almost 1,000 years ago. And his explanation of why start with the beginning of the creation of the heavens and the earth, he says that one day the goyim, the nations, the people in the world are going to say to you, to the people of Israel, you took a land that is not yours. Does that sound familiar? I'm sure it does, because this is what we keep hearing today, that we are occupiers in our own land. He said that in the 11th century. He said, they will say to you, you are thieves, you are robbers, you rob this land from other people. You should answer them, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, which means the land, the earth, everything that we see around us doesn't belong to anybody inherently. If God wants to give it to you, he gives it to you. If God wants to take it away from you, he will take it away from you, as we know he did twice. When the people of Israel was sent on two exiles, a short exile, the Babylonian exile, and the longer exile, 2,000 years of exile that were initiated by the Romans, the year 70. God did that through these tools, which means this land that he promised that he was going to give to us, he promised Abraham, our father. When Abraham came into this land, the land of Canaan, it was called the land of Canaan back then, there were people here. Of course, Abraham didn't just come and say, God promised me, this land, everybody pack up your bags and leave. He didn't say that. But the way history unfolds, we know that later on, Joshua, Moses' successor, when he led the people of Israel into the promised land, into the land of Canaan, had to fight the people that lived here in the land of Canaan in order to fulfill this promise. So I would like for you to think about this for a moment, about this idea of having the first verse in the book of Genesis have everything put in a nutshell. Like, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Everything that you are going to hear after that is just an elaboration of what God wants from us, how God chose his people, how he gave them the law, the Torah. What job are we to fulfill in this world? What does it mean to be the chosen people? Chosen for what? To enjoy ourselves? Or chosen for a certain purpose that we must fulfill? Otherwise, there is no otherwise. We have to fulfill this purpose. So this is going to be the beginning of, hopefully, God willing, a long series of lessons, of talks about the Bible. I would like to encourage you to leave comments and make requests about different questions that you might have, anything that you are interested in that has to do with the Jewish world, with the Jewish law, with our understanding of the Bible, anything of that sort. Life in Israel, anything you might be interested in, please leave it in the comments, and I'm going to try and address each and every one of that. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. Please like and subscribe. See you next time.